Out by the Hebridean Aldhani Dre pens, the rehearsal for the heist moves from individual posture to group dynamics. Taramyn switches to a role as the director of the performance, coaching the team on the psychology of the walk. Taramyn is not teaching movement so much as teaching a story the Empire will accept, at a glance. It's about confidence. We belong here, he says. Notice how he speaks in continuous present tense. We're following, we're listening, we're ready. He's training them to think of the operation as already underway, an effective way to build the group's confidence. Their survival depends on whether they can convincingly inhabit a uniformed role long enough to get through a door. He is teaching them how to act the part, stressing that Gorn is the gatekeeper and that the squad must be locked in. However, just as with the earlier posture drill, the performance is interrupted by the cold reality of tradecraft, and then the cold steel of warcraft. I couldn't put my finger on what, but something about the way Vel and Cinta are draped against the fence with decidedly unimpressed looks on their faces is quite funny here, especially Cinta. One of my patrons mentioned that it has the same vibe as the sheep farmer in Monty Python's Flying Sheep sketch. It so does, but I thought that can't be intentional. I'm not so sure now, having revisited the sketch, which features a bored-looking shepherd watching an absurd attempt at transformation with professional detachment, as his sheep climb trees and believe that they'll become birds just by hopping about on their back legs. He lets them continue because he thinks there might be profit in it at some point. Cassian demands to know what their role is going to be, but Taramyn shuts it down. Might be operational compartmentalization, but it's Taramyn, so it's probably status protection. Cassian should know his role and shut his mouth. Taramyn reacts the same way to Cassian's next comment, "You should switch." It's just Cassian doing the most Cassian thing possible, interrupting the performance with a practical note that exposes the gap between theatre and reality. Skeen is left-handed. Weapons should be pointed to the inside. Taramyn's immediate reaction is pure hierarchy reflex. Before he even evaluates whether Cassian is right, he evaluates whether Cassian is allowed to be right. "Get a handle on what we're doing here before you start making suggestions," he says. But Vel doesn't let that stand, quizzes Cassian on the handedness of the team, and Cassian answers with the precision of a profiler. His observation that Nemik favors right but shoots left is the real zinger. It reveals that the mercenary has been studying his employers with a depth they didn't realize, noting the subtle biomechanics of how they handle weapons even when idle. It's the handle again, and the manual. If Nemik had a manual, it would say he shoots right, but the official documents don't describe the actual object. It's a custom job. For some reason, Nemik adapted. Little thing about me, I'm right-handed but eat left. Fork in my right hand. People say your dominant hand should cut as that's stronger, but my left hand is strong enough to cut, and surely the dexterity is needed for the fork. When I try to do it the right way, there's a risk of stabbing the fork into my face instead of gently placing it in my mouth. Handedness isn't a global setting. I'm not here to critique the show, but there are technicalities here that I don't understand, and when that happens I will say so. Imperial soldiers will have a protocol to follow in this scenario with 2 right-handed and 2 left-handed shooters in a squad. But Taramyn, former stormtrooper, would already know that. It would have been drilled into him. And if I, who knows nothing of such things, thought that Taramyn and Skeen's guns pointing in different direction to Cassian and Nemik's looked wrong on my first watch before Cassian spoke up, then I can't imagine why Taramyn hadn't noticed, or Vel and Cinta, because to me it's really bloody obvious. I don't think Cassian's thinking of what makes best tactical sense should they get into a firefight, because if that happens before they get inside, they're all done for anyway. Cassian, like Taramyn, is trying to make sure they look the part so they won't have to fight. Let me know if I'm misunderstanding something, but otherwise this may be a bit of writing that doesn't quite work. I kind of wish they'd have gone for something more subtle that the audience and other characters weren't so likely to notice, because this does feel a bit, well, duh. And is it really the case that you point the guns towards each other instead of outward? Any army people watch this channel? I digress. In a nice little moment, Vel gives Taramyn a look and he immediately caves to her authority, switches with Skeen, and suggests they run it back again, while Skeen, inviting further suggestions from Cassian, lands like everything he says does. Perfectly reasonable if you were to see it written down, but delivered with what are becoming dangerous levels of sarcastic venom. At this moment, Cinta, despite looking bored out of her mind throughout, proves that good rebels never really switch off and is the first to hear the distant dread whine of the TIE fighter storming into their atmosphere. Vel proved her worth as leader, screaming to cover the guns, sending men sprinting in all directions to throw blankets and hides over the weapons. They achieve it just before the TIE vanishes over the ridgeline. Or did they? It's Vel that predicts it. He's coming back. The TIE pilot's choice to turn around and buzz the group is not an act of tactical suspicion but of casual cruelty. The fact that he doesn't open fire or radio for immediate backup to this location tells us they made it in time. He saw a group of locals, Dani shepherds, possibly pilgrims heading for the temple, and decided to terrify them for sport, swooping low enough to rattle their bones before vanishing back into the clouds. It is a moment of high-tech bullying that underscores the massive power imbalance at play. But the rebels survived this moment with this iconic machine of war because of blankets, so maybe anything's possible. It is Nemik who reframes this terror into tactical advantage. First, he touches Cassian reassuringly on the shoulder. Taramyn tried to touch Cassian in the last scene and it didn't go so well. Cassian has been in youth detention, he's been physically corrected before, he wasn't going to allow that to happen again. But Nemik's touch communicates care and implicitly welcomes Cassian to the group as a person rather than a tool. Nemik then offers the shaken Cassian a profound piece of wisdom. Surprise from above is never as shocking as one from below. The TIE pilot representing the Empire looks down from his high-tech perch and sees only harmless scenery, whether that includes people or not. He assumes that power flows exclusively from the sky to the ground. He cannot conceive that the dirt-stained degenerates he just mocked were hiding the plans and weapons that can bring him down, or that he'll spend tomorrow night attempting to avoid billions of exploding crystals in his notoriously lightly shielded craft. Ultimately, the Empire's greatest weakness is not its lack of armor, but its inability to imagine a threat rising from the stinking subhumans in the mud.